Okay, I need to start talking about this mad idea of deciding to write a book. Crazy, right? Maybe you've had other mad ideas and tried to follow them along, and I've been at this a little while. I'm, in some ways embarrassed to say how long, but it's also been an ever evolving process of creativity, which is in some ways really, wonderful, right? To be involved in a creative process, creating beauty. I mean, that's really what the book is about anyway. So why not? It's about beauty. It's about creating beauty, but it's also about the topic of beauty. But still, I tell you, starting out, first it was let's just do a autobiography of the stories that helped me understand what beauty is, where I got to with it, because it's beauty in the eyes of the beholder is one thing. All right, a little bit of construction going on here, which I just love, by the way. It really helps. A lot more concrete than writing a book, I'll tell you that. So the boys are working on both sides of the street here, building a new house here and building a new fence over there, and much more concrete, much more foundational, much more like hands-on. And yeah, that would have been a story in my book if I had finished that autobiographical book, but I didn't. Started it, got 3/4 of the way through, but realized, oh my God, that's a lot of work. And then I switched to, okay, so I'm switching genres here, and maybe that's something that you've had, a creative project or writing a book even. So then I switched to, okay, we'll do an academic book because that's what is really going to make a difference. But then when you realize how many people read academic books, well, they don't, unless you're get it into the medical school system. I mean, as a health professional, I thought about, yeah, I could just go and do a PhD, and then 7 people would read that PhD, and that would be another way of getting everything down, and that was an option too. But it seemed crazy. That just seemed like a crazy idea as well. Like, why spend all that time for 7 or 8 people to write that? Okay, so then I could translate that PhD into a book that is readable, accessible, to your average bear, and bring the topic out that way. And oh God, like at this stage of the game, anyway, it became an exhaustive idea. But no, can't do that. And plus, I couldn't find a school with a good supervisory team that would be able to really, truly get at what I really wanted to get at without all those academic requirements and guidelines, which I suppose on one hand are really great, right? They are. And on the other hand, I just would find it too restrictive for my Irish soul. So I decided against that. I wasn't going to do an academic book on the psychology of beauty or something, right? And then so from autobiography to the psychology of beauty. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just write about, I'll just do, a coffee table book, the 17, the 13, the 10 different kinds of beauty, and talk about each of them, separately, and do a beautiful representation of each one, and work with AI and work with somebody, an assistant editor/editor person that can help me transcribe AI, because I've been doing this a long time and I'm not exactly AI savvy, and AI hasn't been around, so in the end, that's where we got to. Decided no PhD, no academic book, no autobiography, and no just doing a beautiful picture book of the different beauties, but actually no, doing the latest version. We've been at this for a little while now. Is to do this book on this 13.7 different kinds of beauty. And so, yeah, that's not been easy either, right? I mean, at any creative project, anything that you decide that you're going to do and commit to, and this is the thing. Maybe it's important for me to say this, and maybe it isn't. But if you're going to do a creative project that is a little bit like your life's work, like hello, that's no pressure, and also it needs. That's where the meaning is. That's where the joy is. That's also in the end something I can feel proud of. And yeah, and as a mental health worker, you know, holistic psychotherapist guy that has been around for 30 years plus doing that and then doing other spiritual counseling. I mean, I have some stories. I do want to share them, but I'll be damned if I can get them out into some sort of coherence, you know? So, juggling my matcha here. So I don't know about you, but this is one of those things that love to get your feedback on, you know, if you've tried to create a project or you actually are one of those beauty people that are under the influence of these different kinds of beauty. The beauty of music that's really influencing you right now, you're called to, you feel like you're being stopped in your tracks because you're really finding music is calling you, and beauty means to be called. So for me, it's called into this creative process of writing a book, but it's also the topic itself of the different kinds of beauty. So to be called to something creative, to be called to a certain person, right? To be called to a certain kind of architecture, to be called to do some inner work with the therapists, to be called into a beautiful park, right, like where I am right now, right on the edge of a park, actually, and or to be called into the trauma, that has really pushed you around. So these are all different kinds of beauty, and then the beauty that can come out of you working through a process around, trauma or some of the challenges that you have and have had, depression or anxiety as a result of post-traumatic stress disorder. But there's the beauty of there's post-traumatic beauty, right? If you work through that. So there's all that, right? There's all the topics within it, but I'm talking about really, or trying to talk about the creativity or the lack thereof some days, the struggle with it of trying different routines and hiring an editor or trying to do little articles or trying to I'm so impressed with so many people who've been able to do this, honestly, and there are books coming out all the time, but I'm just not there yet. I feel like I'm starting again, and I'm not young anymore, so I gotta get it done. So it's a crazy idea. You've had crazy ideas. I'm wondering about some of those crazy ideas right now that you might be called to. Again, beauty means to be called. So are you called to, take action, to do something inwardly or outwardly or change the world or what have you? I mean, maybe that's a good place for us to start a conversation about. You're called to, make a contribution. You don't know what that is, or you do, you know exactly what it is, but tell me. Maybe put in the chat down below that there's a call that you're following and you're tugging on a thread. You don't know where it's going, but it's not letting you go. And that's how I feel anyway. It's one of those things that you kind of got to surrender to, and yet you've got to engage with, you've got to like lean into, and then you got to bring some fierce gentleness. And it's not that the writing isn't happening. There's writing, there's freaking lots of writing happening, but none of it. A lot of it seems to be bilge. I don't know about you guys with creative projects. Sometimes you got to write 20 things to get at one, but maybe that's just my process. Anyway, I wanted to share that, just a little bit of challenge, a little bit. Okay, it's a big challenge, but it's a good challenge too. That's the other side of it. I feel like that's what's beautiful about a project is that it can really challenge you to get out of your way, because I don't know how to write a freaking book. Nobody showed me how to write a book. And then there's courses that I've tried, and then there's autobiography courses, and then there's biography courses. And like I've tried a bunch of those things, and some of them were very, very useful, and some of them maybe not so much for me. But like I said, I'm so impressed that people, whether they do courses or whether they just sit down and write it, or they go back to the old country. I tried that. I got somewhere with that for sure. But Ireland is a great place to write. There's more writers that come out of Ireland than anywhere else in the world. Surely that's a place where I can get the writing done. Not so much, even though I was born there. Like, what the hell? How come that didn't happen? Where were the freaking ancestors for that one? Anyway, I'm trying to, share this, sip on my morning matcha after the workout with you guys, and hoping that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your struggles, and about beauty and how it has influenced you, and how, if you were a beauty maker, you make art or you make music or you just bring smiles to people during the day. Like, there are so many different kinds of ways that we make beauty in the world. And I'd love to hear your ways of doing that. And yes, it doesn't have to be all, okay, here it is, it's all complete. Because there's a shit ton of, I said the word, of beauty makers in the world. We call beauty people who are, want to go to bat for saving the green patch in our neighborhood, or, the diversity, goodness that we all have a principle around in our lives. Or we want to go to bat for just a beautiful moment that doesn't have to be stolen away by technology or screens or what have you. Like, there's a lot of beauty people out there. You're one of them if you're listening to this. And I hope this is useful and maybe encouraging. And please let me know if you're what is the beauty that you're under the influence of now, that you're being called to, and what are the struggles with it? Yeah, I'll try and get back to you. All right, bye for now.